Happy Labor Day if you're in the US. It's been less than 24 hours since. Okay, more than 12 hours. I was checking the time, but more than 12 and less than 24 since my last video. So I thought I'd go ahead and just finish up our left front panel. I took a closer look at it, and I think we don't really have to undo much except the row of double crochet, which I all already frogged, so that's encouraging. Scrolling down to where the pattern is. If you're new here, I'm Thorn. I use he, him, his, and we're in the Gothic Grotto to hang out and talk about this pattern, which I'm working on. It's part of my poet or pirate shirt pattern. I haven't seen any crocheted versions of a garment like that. You find a lot of sewn versions, but not crocheted. So for those of us who would rather make an entire crocheted garment, even if that takes longer than sew, I'm here. This is my first draft, just so you can see what it will look like. There will be a long sleeved option. Poet shirts often have that long sleeve and then it's gathered at the wrist with the ruffle. It looks so good. But since I live in California, I also wanted a short sleeved option for me, so right. I've given the relevant specs in previous videos, but this is Furl's Wander yarn. It's the acrylic Wander, and in the Campfire colorway. And I'm using a 5mm hook. The controls for my ring light are in the way, and it's not even on right now. Anyway, I hope it's not picking up too much background noise, but apologies if so. It's, you know, it's a long weekend, so family members are about. Oh, there's my hook. So, before we realized there was a problem last time, we had done these two side-by-side rows of single crochet, which are created by doing either the front or back loop first and then doing the other one that you didn't do the first time. And then we just continue working in the second of those rows. In this case, the single crochet that was worked into the back loop. So that's the one that we build on for the rest of the fabric. And we did a double crochet row in that, but I realized that we actually need to do two single. Sorry, just waiting for someone to go up the stairs. Okay. We actually need to do two single crochet rows so that we end up on the right side of the fabric. For the cables, we need to be working on the outside. So the outside needs to be facing us. So The other panel does have a double crochet row at this point in the pattern, so that's why I'm doing 2 single crochet rows so that it will be the same height but will be on the correct location, orientation of the panel. So yeah, let's see. And I think after this video I can go ahead and post the blog post with the pattern for this section, at least the current draft of the written pattern. So right, I had started numbering the cable section with its own row numbers. So instead of the double crochet row, which is row 1, this is now row 1 and then row 1.5. I also did a similar thing with the 2 rows that are equivalent to the treble crochet row. So we have 4 and 4.5 in the stripe section. So yeah, I've already started this row, but I chained 1 and then I'm just single crocheting across in both loops. It's just a normal single crochet. And when I was writing this, I figured out that I had to do the rows opposite. So I'm going from the center of the panel first. The center of the garment. The two panels meet in the center in the front, so it's at the edge of the panel, but it's like the center chest seam. Whereas before we started each row, when we're doing cables, we started from the side. But that didn't take too much rewriting, especially not compared to all the the earlier part of this, the shoulder part and the upper chest was just really confusing to mirror. Speaking of, my camera is mirrored, so that's why I say this is my left shoulder, because it is. I will try to figure out how to unmirror my camera after I move, but I feel like it would be putting you into an Escher painting if I did it now, so just gonna wait on that. Okay, one more stitch. Just making sure I had 9 because I wasn't sure if the last one was a turning chain or a actual stitch. Anyway, row 1.5, chain 1, and single crochet back across to this side. Okay, good. I skipped the, when I was changing the references from double crochet to single crochet in the pattern, I also took out the instruction to skip the first single crochet, because when you're doing a tall stitch, of course, you do skip the first stitch after the turning chain, because the turning chain counts as the first stitch, but when you are single crocheting, you don't skip the first stitch, which is very confusing if you're starting out. I really appreciate all the comments on my videos lately and all the new subscribers, so thank you for checking out my channel. It really gives me hope that I can, you know, support myself as a crochet designer, maybe like yarn dyer in the future and stuff like that. But right now I've just been working on building my audience and community. So thanks for being part of that. Almost to where we get to start the cables, and since we don't have double crochet to work into, I will want to walk you through this one. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, I had the wrong number of stitches. Sorry, someone came through listening to an audiobook. Hopefully you can't hear it in the background, but in any case, I'm going to count to make sure that I have my correct number of stitches, which is not the actual correct number, but I want it to be the same as the other panel that I did. So the actual correct number is some odd number on the side panel and a multiple of 6 right here. So let me just count. Okay, good. I do indeed have 22 stitches. And now we can start the cables. So we start by chaining 3. And skip the first single crochet. And normally okay, so normally we would do a front post treble crochet at this point, but I need to do the braid first, so I'm going to do that and then walk us through the rest of the pattern. However, I will say that since we don't have our normal tall stitches to work around, we just have 2 rows of single crochet. I've said in the pattern you can either work around the post of row 1 or row 1.5. So basically on the first on the lower stitch or the upper stitch, it's up to you. I'm doing it around the lower stitch because I think that looks closer to when I do it around the post of a double crochet. So this is a braid, but it looks like that. And I'm going to complete the pattern and then tell you how to do the next repeat, which will actually be a full, it will be my first full repeat of the pattern, so that's why I want to explain that one. Okay. Now, pretend we've just started the row. If this is the turning chain, this double crochet I just made, we skip the next single crochet after that and make a front post treble crochet around, again, I would do it in the posts of, to be honest, I'm having trouble reading my work right now, but whichever this particular post will be segmented into several levels because it's a couple different rows of short stitches, but just use whichever segment works, if that makes sense. So let's see, I have 3 posts that are occupied from my previous braid, and then I have this one which is empty, but I can't use it. I'll probably just tell you because it's hard to show you, but I can't use the next post because it's occupied by having a double crochet on the top. So then I go to the next post instead, and that's where I do my front post treble crochet. When you're doing the front post stitches and the top stitches, it can be hard to keep track of which one has been used, so that's why I like to count from the last stitch of that type. So I'm like, okay, I should have 5 empty posts, so I go to the next one. Okay, and that's just a normal cable, as in it's not part of the braid. However, the next 3 posts are part of the braid, so we do them out of order. So skip 1 post, do a front post treble around the second one, and then you do a front post treble around the third one. And there are top-down videos that can help you understand this better, but just so you know what we're doing in this pattern. And then we have these 2, which are there's a gap between them and the previous one because we skipped this post, so we go back and do our front post treble in the one that we skipped. And that way it crosses over. So that's our braid. And then we skip those 3 that have the posts worked and go to the next unoccupied post and just do a plain front post treble crochet. So we have our braid accompanied by 2 columns, and then we do a normal double crochet in the next stitch. And like I said before, since there are so many unoccupied tops, it can be hard to tell which one you should work into, so just keep in mind from the last double crochet there should be 5 unoccupied tops of the stitches, and then you work in the 6th one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's because there are 5 cable stitches that we just did. And then you repeat the the the, the plain cable, the 3 strands of the braid, the plain cable, and then the double crochet until we get to the side part of the panel. So I'll just do a few more repeats so I can show you that part, which is simpler actually. Okay, the braid. A normal cable. I think there's just one more repeat of the braid and the other stuff too. Now my yarn is stuck in the controls of the light. Maybe this needs to go somewhere else. This is the ring light I use, by the way. Fun behind the scenes look. It doesn't really have a home, so it can just go there. I used to keep it back there usually, but my yarn's still tangled. But when I started sewing, it started getting knocked off by the machine and the fabric, so I really just need more space. Which is one reason why I'm pretty excited to move. Okay, and it was also the tail of the other panel, so. Okay. Right, we just finished our braid. Normal column, just a double crochet. Okay, skip a post and go to the next one. For the first column, braid, second strand of braid, third strand of braid, which crosses over, second normal column, and normal double crochet. I hope I still have the same amount of stitches as before on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, that might be 8, but I really don't think I have 9. Okay. I am going to do my last double crochet in the 5th stitch instead of the 6th one, and just kind of cheat a bit. And then when we get to the side panel, we do one front post, one front post treble around the first single crochet post in either of really any of the single crochet rows that we've done, as long as it looks like the stitches will be about this height or about the same height as the other panel that you did previously. That's the important thing. And then we do a normal double crochet on top, and these double crochets should have one empty top of the stitch between them, because we're just alternating front post, treble, and the double crochet on top. So it's just like a series of vertical lines, which are cables. So it's a much simpler pattern than the braids. Okay, skip a post, go to the next one. Skip a top, go to the next one. Skip a post, go to the next one. Skip a top. Oh cool, I do have the right number apparently. Oh, I know. Last time I had us going double crochet, treble, double, treble, and then ending on the double, which means you need an odd number of stitches. I think I'm going to change it to be an even number this time, or I could just slightly change the way the repeat is written, because I think I was counting. Yeah, I would like it to look the same rather than being written the same. So last time I was counting the final double crochet at the end of the braid pattern, and the final one would have ended over here, but this time I started with the chain and then did the pattern. Well, I was still counting the final double crochet, but since it's on both sides, it really depends where you want to count it from, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of like the days of the week. Where do you count the week start from? It just goes in a circle. Or it's a repeating pattern. So I think this last one that I was counting as the end of the braid pattern, it technically goes with the side, if that makes sense. I'll try to rewrite the pattern. Why don't I do that now, and I'll rejoin you in a minute. I just realized I had a random extraneous double crochet in between the first cable and the braid. Okay, I was going to read the pattern out loud to you, but it sounds really confusing when I read it out loud, so just refer to the written pattern under this video. We're not quite done yet. For row 3, we chain 1 and turn and just single crochet across. This one's nice and easy. And we single crochet across the tops of all of the double crochet and the treble crochet, which should all be roughly the same height, even though they're worked in different. Actually, it's because they're worked in different places in the material, like the posts versus the tops of the stitches. That's why you get double and treble being the same height when they usually aren't. And if you remember, last time we just repeated the row we're doing now and alternated it with not the row we just did, but the next row, because the first row of cables is always a bit different because you have nothing to cable into except non-cable stitches. But next time you can cable into the cables or around them, and that's what we're doing. But we have to set up the pattern first. But I don't think it will take too long. And remember to do your last single crochet in the turning chain, because that counts as the first double crochet. So, row 4, chain 3, turn around, and if you're me, you immediately launch into the braid. I will explain the rest of it in a minute. But you should have a straight cable, which you do your first front post treble around, so it just looks like a continuation of the straight cable, like a raised line running down the fabric. Okay, so as we've established, this double crochet is technically the beginning of the next repeat, but you won't really know how to find it unless you look for the 5 open tops on the back here, which you skipped because you were working into the posts. So for now, pretend that this is the turning chain, and we do a front post treble crochet around the previous front post treble This one's a lot easier than the previous one because it's a lot more obvious where the stitches go, the cabling stitches. And then for the braid, so these cross over, so it's a bit complicated to number them. I'm numbering them from the top. So count the tops, 1, 2, 3. The third one, of course, begins, it goes diagonal. So if you count from the bottom, the third one is first, but we're not doing that. So if we count the tops, we're working around the second one, which is all the way in the back, pretty much, first. We skip the first one, as we did last time. It wasn't a cable then, but still, like, it's the same idea. Then we do another front post treble in the third stitch, which happens to be on top of the other two. And then we do our third front post treble by coming back and doing it around the first one, which we skipped previously. And that way it also crosses over. So this is where we get the braid effect. Here's one that's maybe a bit more visible because I've finished the rest of the repeat pattern. And then we do our front post treble around the next straight cable. So we have our pattern there with the braid and the two straight cables. It's not super obvious, but like this is the straight cable and this is the braid and this is the next straight cable. And then for the next repeat, we count in the back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, okay. Thought I may have missed one, but looks like I didn't. And then we just continue working around the posts as before. So I'm going to go a bit more quickly so I can show you what the side panel looks like. Although it is pretty simple at this point if you've gotten this far. What can't you do? Pretty much. And feel free to ask me questions if anything's confusing. Will help me make the written version more clear, and probably eventually the non-vlog tutorial version. I would like to have one of those too, just in case that's easier for people. And one more. Cabling pattern. Right, then we finish with the straight cable, and I think, as I said before, I think the next double crochet technically counts as part of the side panel pattern, so that's how I'll write it in the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, So we double crochet in our first side panel stitch, front post treble around the front post treble from the last time we did cables, double crochet in the next stitch, and of course we leave a gap there because this supposedly empty stitch has been taken up by the cable. And we continue doing this until the end of the row. And we make sure to end with a double crochet because otherwise the cables aren't really anchored to anything and they'll just kind of flop around. So that's why you need to end with a non-cable stitch. For some reason I don't have quite enough stitches, so I'm just gonna not skip a stitch for the last one. I mean, this last one back here, I didn't skip a stitch between the two double crochet because it's more important to me to have the cables anchored on the side than to have the right number of stitches back here. Although it would be nice. Well, go forth and do this row 3 and 4, which we just did, until it gets long enough, as in the same length as this panel, and may you have fewer confusing errors than I did, but I guess that's why I do it, so that, you know, it's like clearing the path for other people. It's like when you're a goat and you're chewing the forage and the leaves so that other people can, so that humans can come in and do other stuff. Yep. So yeah, have a good rest of your day, and bye.